Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Facebook video. And today we are talking with Chris Wilson, who's the Director of Advancement and Volunteers for Hospice of the Chesapeake. And we're talking about the role of volunteers at Hospice of the Chesapeake in honor of National Volunteer Appreciation Week. So thanks, Chris, for taking time to do a Zoom recording with me. Appreciate you being here.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be with you today.
So one of the first things to, I think, talk about is sort of how volunteers are playing into the whole COVID-19 pandemic. What has been different, and what are some of the challenges that have been happening at Hospice of the Chesapeake?
Sure. Well, first, Tammy, I want to say that our volunteers, along with our patients and their families and our staff, are really, their safety is top of our priority. So right now, we are not making in-person visits to our patients and families during the pandemic. So we've really had to look for some unique and creative ways that we can still care for and support them. So our volunteer team has really been creative and found a couple of things that are working well. First and foremost is simply just making what we call phone visits. So we're calling patients and their caregivers just to check in on them, to see how they're doing, and to ask them, would they like a continued volunteer check-in on a weekly basis? Perhaps they want to volunteer to read or sing to them each week, just to help keep them connected and feel like they're not so socially isolated. So that's one of the primary things.
That's got to be huge. Like, that part of it has been, I mean, for all of us, that social isolation has been such a challenge.
Absolutely. And you know, it's as much for the patients and families as well for the volunteers, because they want to stay connected. Right. We also were really able to work and create a virtual honor salutes is what we're calling them. As many of you know, we do honor salutes typically in the patient's home or wherever they call home. But during this time, since we can't go out, we still want to pay respect to our veteran patients. So what we have done is created honor salute kits that our clinical team members actually take to the patients. So that includes their quilt, their certificate, and their pen. And then they share pre-recorded video messages from our veteran volunteers to show appreciation to that veteran patient. So that has worked really well in addition to the phone visits.
So I'm guessing the patients that have received that have been like blown away. Like, I mean, to be able to do that even during creatively come up with a way to still make that happen, that's great.
Absolutely. And it was really touching too how many of our active duty military wanted to still create these messages to share with our veteran patients, because they truly do like going out and visiting with the patients and doing the honor salutes. Yeah. Yeah. And then the last thing, Tammy, that I'll share with you, that, you know, we're all feeling stressed right now, right? So you can only imagine what our patients and families are going through. So we worked with our healing arts team, and we've created some therapeutic music sessions as well as guided meditation that we can share with not only patients and families, but our own volunteers as well, because we want to continue to check on them, because they're part of our Hospice of the Chesapeake family, and we truly are all in this together.
That's great. That's great. How about just overall? I'm going to back up a little bit and move away, I guess, from talking about specifically related to COVID-19, but overall, what do you think people are surprised about when they hear about volunteering for Hospice of the Chesapeake?
Sure. Well, volunteers really do play a vital role in helping us provide high level of patient care. It's really truly part of the hospice philosophy. In fact, I want to remind you and everyone that this organization was started by a group of volunteers who wanted to make a difference in our community over 40 years ago. So really part of that hospice philosophy is something that I think people are surprised about. So much so that volunteers really are thought of as part of our interdisciplinary team approach. So they directly support our staff through providing that compassionate care to the patients and families. And so much so that they even have to provide documentation on their visits, which is then shared with the clinical teams to support the plan of care.
So it's really a critical part in providing the care to someone that is at the end of their life. It is definitely a key piece.
Absolutely. But the thing that I think surprises everyone the most is that actually volunteers are required by Medicare. So that means that our organization must provide day-to-day direct patient care services in an amount that is equal to a minimum of 5% of our total patient care hours of all of our paid hospice employees. That is the thing that I think surprises people the most. How many other organizations do you know that it is mandated that they use volunteers to support their mission?
Right, to be an integral part of what they're doing, what they're providing.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So you mentioned a couple of things about how volunteers, you mentioned the honor salute and sort of helping with the patient interaction. What are some other roles that people could do as a volunteer at Hospice of the Chesapeake?
Sure. Well, obviously, patient care is the largest portion of our volunteers and our volunteer support. You know, they're really enhancing that quality of life for patients and their families. But I would like to also talk about our administrative volunteers because they provide much needed office and clerical support. They do everything from mailings to on-site deliveries to data entry to phone support, filing, and other special projects. And they really help us keep our administrative costs down through helping us with those types of items. We have very dedicated administrative volunteers who come in each and every week to support the organization.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What about from the Chesapeake Life Center and the grief support? Could somebody do some sort of volunteer activity in that organization?
Absolutely. So the Chesapeake Life Center also has volunteers that directly support their bereavement care and their support groups. They make phone calls and outreach. Now, I should mention that each of the different types of volunteers have different levels of trainings that are needed. So for example, a patient care volunteer is going to need one set of training. And then if you want to be a Chesapeake Life Center volunteer, you would need additional trainings to be able to support those type of bereavement activities. But we provide all of that to our volunteers.
Okay. All right. So what about you talked a little bit about the healing arts, the people that are sharing sort of their musical talents or gifts. Are there any other, if someone has a special skill set or able to do something, is there a way that they could volunteer for Hospice of the Chesapeake as well?
Absolutely. So first of all, on the healing arts side, even if you simply have the interest, perhaps you want to learn Reiki or comfort touch, you know, we can help work with you and we offer specialized training. So just if the volunteer has the interest in that area, they should reach out to us because we can help train them in that. We also often get volunteers who have developed a particular skill or expertise, perhaps through their career, and they are very good at data management or analysis. So again, they'll come in and become an administrative volunteer to help us with things of that nature. Or maybe they have a hobby or a passion for gardening. They might want to come in and join us in making flower arrangements that we actually then take to our patients and give out at our inpatient care centers. Or in particular, and right now, to tie it back to this pandemic, let's not forget about those who have the ability to sew or knit. So not only can they make quilts to honor our veterans, but right now we're in need of volunteers to make masks for our teams and to be able to give out during this pandemic.
Yeah, that's got to be a huge way to be able to give back. And, you know, you've been seeing that more and more about needing the mask and becoming required to protect yourself and to protect others. That would be a great way that folks could volunteer and help out.
Absolutely. And then I also want to mention some people really have the knack for engaging the community. We have lots of volunteers as well who really help us with community outreach, community education. So let's not forget that if you like to be out in the community and you have a passion for Hospice of the Chesapeake, you know, we're always willing and would love to have you support us in those areas as well. Everything from talking and educating the community to helping us plan events that you can engage and we can bring new people into the organization.
Yeah, those are all great ideas. I'm thinking you probably have heard a lot of really powerful stories from people about how volunteering has sort of either changed their life or changed what they thought about the organization, or even just, you know, had a really deep impact on them. Is there anything that comes to mind regarding someone's personal story that they've shared with you?
I hear lots of personal stories about the impact that volunteering with us has had on the volunteer themselves, but mostly they all want to share how the patient or the situation impacted them, quite honestly. It's so interesting, we had a pediatric patient that we needed volunteers to come and sit with and care for over a 24-hour span to give respite to a family. And I can't tell you the number of individuals who signed up to care for that pediatric patient throughout the night. And every single one of them talked about how impactful it was to them and how meaningful it was to them to be able to participate and support a family in that nature. So really, I think it's more about what the volunteer gets out of it. We actually like to call it volunteesia, which is that moment that they forget they're volunteering to help support and change others' lives, and it really is changing theirs.
Yeah, that's got to be huge.
I also have another just quick story, and I could go on with the stories.
That's good.
I really could. Another quick story that's even simple that shows that you don't even have to have that desire to be with a patient, because sometimes people just feel like they can't handle that, and that's okay. But, we have our garden club volunteers who come in every week to make these flower arrangements, and we take those to patients and families and at our inpatient care center. And one of our volunteers delivered a bouquet of flowers to a patient at the inpatient care center. And the patient was so moved. The volunteer shared this with me. The patient was so moved and literally teared up because she had never received flowers before. And that just really moved our volunteer. So again, it's not that you have to always be at the bedside. There are so many ways you can help our organization.
Right. Little touches that make such a big impact that you're,
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if someone were to want to become a volunteer, you mentioned some training, what would be, if they're interested, what's the first step? What should they do?
So the first step really, I think, is reaching out to us, our volunteer onboarding coordinator, and we can give you that information and number. It's 443-837-1508, or email us at volunteers@hospicechesapeake.org. And let us know kind of what you think you might want to do. And then let's talk through all of the different volunteer opportunities, because so many times when people think they want to do one thing, but then they expand out into another area. We do offer the unique trainings for end-of-life care. We offer trainings for healing arts modalities. So it's a nice way to develop their skills, and it's a great way for volunteers to be able to give back to an organization. Many of our volunteers have had an experience themselves and want to honor their memory of their loved one, or just simply pay it forward to another family.
Right. So we'll be sure to include the number that you mentioned and the email address in our comment section in our Facebook. Is there anything, I know you probably want to say a special shout out to the current volunteers since it is National Volunteer Appreciation Week, but is there anything else that you wanted to mention today?
I just think that, yes, our current group of volunteers and everyone that I personally meet, and I've met many of them, it really lets you see the good in the world and the joy in the world. And I think that it truly is, it's just uplifting. Everybody is just always open to new ideas, to helping out. They do everything with a smile. We're so appreciative of it. And again, it just brings joy to our patients, our families, our staff, and we are so very grateful for them.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks again, Chris, for taking time to talk with me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tammy.
I want to thank the John and Kathy Belcher Institute for their generous support of the community education programs here at Hospice of the Chesapeake, and thank you guys for watching.